Went to pick her up from school today, and she never came out. They announced it over the speaker, and I'm just like, maybe she walked here, because sometimes she'll walk here to this office.
Green hoodie,
Green hoodie,
white Crocs,
white Crocs.
either blue or black pants.
I think black shorts.
Black shorts?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. Today we're going to be talking about some important updates about Madeline Soto. I've already made 2 videos about her case. If this is the first time that you're hearing about it, I will leave them linked down below for you to start watching before you watch this new update video. That being said, thank you all so much for being here, for showing up for Madeline, and for taking the time to keep her memory and just keep her name alive. What happened to Madeline is a terrible tragedy. So many adults who should have been looking out for her failed her and just betrayed her in such a brutal way. It's so infuriating and just so sad. I will be leaving some resources down below if you or anyone you know is a victim of sexual abuse. Parents, guardians, and caretakers, I highly encourage you to take a look at the resources, as well as I will be leaving some helpful links to guide you into having these tough conversations with your kids about how grooming starts, the early warning signs, how to create boundaries, and how to create a safe environment at home where your child feels comfortable enough to come forward if anything like that is going on in their lives. We need to protect the vulnerable. Like I said in my first 2 videos, there is so much speculation in this case online, especially on TikTok, which I won't be touching on. You know, I just don't think spreading theories and just spreading these crazy ideas of what really happened and things like that is helpful. There has been no information regarding a motive or other people's involvement, which I know is a huge topic of discussion. That being said, we will be talking about newer updates that have been confirmed. Thank you all again so much for being here. Before we jump in, I do just want to take a quick moment to thank PimEyes for supporting this channel. PimEyes is a face search platform designed to help users track where their images appear online and take action if necessary. The other day I thought to myself, I wonder if someone is using my pictures to pass off as their own. So I went through PimEyes to take a look, and sure enough, people were using my photos and pretending to be me. It's such an uneasy feeling when you realize your image is being used, but thankfully that's where PimEyes comes in. Through their search engine, you can see where your images appear, request a takedown, and set up alerts in case that image appears again. Their website is very simple to use and just gives you a little more peace of mind when it comes to your digital security. Some key features PimEyes offers are 1. Accurate face search, which means you can instantly locate your images online. 2. Private protection, which means there's no image storage and no social media searches. 3. You can get notified when new images appear and remove unwanted ones. Lastly, PimEyes is ethical and legal, so there's no dark web searches and, of course, no searching for children through their platform. PimEyes empowers its users to take control over their online personal safety. To learn more about this face search platform and to check where your images appear, make sure to head over to PimEyes by clicking the link in the description box down below. Thank you again to PimEyes for supporting this channel, and with that, let's jump right into today's video. Now, just to give you a summary of where we last left off, 13-year-old Madeline Soto was reported missing on Monday, February 26, 2024, after her mom, then 35-year-old Jennifer Soto, arrived to pick Madeline up from school and learned that she never made it to class that day. Jennifer's live-in and on-and-off boyfriend of approximately 7 years, then 37-year-old Stephan Michael Stearns, told police that he personally dropped her off near her middle school at a church that was across the street because she didn't want to be dropped off right at the school since she was embarrassed about his car. She was last wearing a green hoodie, blue jeans, and white Crocs. Messages between Madeline and a friend revealed that she had talked about wanting to live in the woods when she turned 13. With her birthday taking place just before she went missing, this became a theory in the initial investigation. Search dogs were unsuccessful in following Madeline's scent the day she was reported missing, and searches in the following days led to nothing, until unfortunately, Madeline was found lifeless a few days later in a wooded area. New court documents have finally revealed her cause of death. The medical examiner, Dr. Stephan, determined her cause of death as homicide via strangulation. The medical examiner said he noticed her socks were clean on the bottom, telling him she likely didn't walk anywhere. In addition to this, upon reviewing her medical records, investigators also learned that she was diagnosed with ADHD and anxiety disorder. In early reports, Jennifer told police Madeline was diagnosed with autism the same time that she was diagnosed with ADHD, but later reassessed and said she only had autism autistic traits and weren't sure if she did have autism. It was also revealed that Madeline did have asthma. Stephan Stearns, her mom's boyfriend, is so far the only person who has been arrested in connection to Madeline's murder. He was initially arrested on unrelated charges and was charged with 60 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12, battery on a child 12 to 18 years old, lewd and lascivious molestation, as well as unlawful possession of materials depicting performance by a child. Unfortunately, Madeline is in the majority of these pictures. It wasn't until later that Stephan was indicted on capital first-degree murder in Madeline's case. So we're going to be going over new information that has been released in the court docs and video footage that can kind of give us a clearer picture of this case so far. Recently released 911 calls from Jennifer's family shed light on the delay in the response to Madeline's disappearance. 3 separate individuals, most likely friends or family members of Jennifer, called 911 on February 26, 2024, trying to get help from law enforcement to find Madeline. Despite their efforts, an officer didn't arrive to help until nearly 3 hours later. The first 911 call was made to report Madeline as a missing person just after 4:40 p.m. The caller answered basic questions about Madeline, and the dispatcher assured them that officers would arrive as soon as possible to make an official report. However, by 5:16 p.m., over 30 minutes later, no officers had arrived. A second call was then made, during which the dispatcher explained that no officers were currently available but promised that someone would be sent when possible. Still, by 7:21 p.m., more than 2 hours after the second call, a third 911 call was made, expressing concern over the lack of police response. Once again, the dispatcher said that they were very busy and reiterated that officers would arrive as soon as one became available. It wasn't until 7:37 p.m., nearly 3 hours after the initial call, that a police officer finally arrived. In response to questions about the delay, an Orange County Sheriff's Office spokesman said, quote, "It's important to note that on February 26, 2024, during the hours when those calls came in, from 4 to 8 p.m., the Orange County Sheriff's Office Communication Center received 750 incoming calls. Of those, 489 were 911 emergency calls." So they were basically trying to say, like, yeah, we were really busy that day. Now, in addition to this giving us a glimpse into what happened that night, body cam footage from this same night has been released as well. One of them shows a police officer arriving at her grandmother's workplace, which was located near Madeline's school. Jennifer had gone there to check if Madeline might have shown up there since she sometimes walked there after class. There, she and Stephan gave officers basic information like what happened that day and what Madeline was last wearing. A canine began searching for her that same night, but like I said, they just couldn't track her scent. Of course, like we talked about in the last video, Stephan and Jennifer were both questioned by the police. Both of them would make contradicting statements, such as Jennifer saying that she did see Madeline that morning that she went missing, but then later saying that she didn't see Madeline and that she was confused, or how she said that she and Stephan dropped Madeline off at school together, but then later said that only Stephan dropped Madeline off. So yeah, like I mentioned in my last video, their statements just weren't making sense. So now that footage of them has been released, let's talk about their questioning a little bit more. During Stephan's initial questioning, he gave consent to have his phone searched, but made it known that he accidentally performed a factory reset on his cell phone. In reality, it was 2 factory resets that he had performed. Now, of course, that isn't possible. You have to manually do a factory reset with different steps. It really just can't happen by accident. One of the factory resets was performed at 12:12 p.m. on the day Madeline went missing, and then the other was performed at midnight on February 27th, which would be around the time that he was actually out driving in Jennifer's car looking for Madeline, according to the court documents. Regardless of his efforts, investigators were still able to access the contents of his phone, and there they found explicit photos and videos of Madeline being essayed. Police were able to determine that they were taken inside the Soto home, and Madeline was asleep in the majority of the videos. Further searches into his phone led police to Stephan's Google Drive, and inside they found a folder dedicated to Madeline containing 1,700 files. I know, it's all just so disturbing and just so sick, and the fact that he tried to reset his phone and just delete everything, yet police were still able to find this information is just truly insane. Now, these images and videos date back to when Madeline was 8 years old. Detectives also discovered that Stephan searched on his phone for sevoflurane, a volatile inhalation anesthetic used to induce and maintain general anesthesia during surgeries. He made the search on February 12, 2024, and then on February 14th, 2024, with words to the effect of, quote, show up on drug test. Now, these were very odd searches considering Stephan wasn't preparing for any surgery or drug tests. Some other things that Stephan said in his interview that stood out was that he and Madeline were having, quote, snuggle cuddle time the night before she went missing, which is just so disturbing. Like, what? Investigators also asked him if he knew if Madeline was active with anyone in the past, and Stephan said that there was a, quote, incident that happened where when she was much younger where Madeline did something with the phone or camera but, quote, wasn't scolded for it. So some people don't know if he's referring to like maybe Madeline sent like a, vulnerable photo to someone or took like a vulnerable picture or vulnerable, video on her phone. Before arresting Stephan or even telling him about what they had found, and before Madeline's body was found, investigators showed Jennifer an image of the essay happening for identification purposes, and she didn't want to believe that it was real. She said that she didn't recognize anything in the photo, that Stephan was a master manipulator, and now that she saw these pictures, actual evidence, she realized that Stephan was guilty for grooming and abusing her daughter. When asked if she thought Stephan killed Madeline, she said, quote, at this point, I do. But investigators began to doubt Jennifer's sincerity and were questioning whether she was covering for Stephan. Sometimes she would make statements showing hatred for Stephan and for what he did, but other times she would seem as if she wanted to protect him and seemed more concerned about him going to jail rather than finding her daughter. One investigator even told her, quote, I believe that you became aware of their relationship. I think at a certain point throughout this relationship, you became aware of it, and for whatever reason, your reasons are your reasons, whether it was discussed that it would stop, whether it was discussed how it would go, that you feel some sense of guilt. First of all, I don't think he should have referred to this as a sexual relationship. This wasn't a relationship. Madeline was being abused by Stephan. So Jennifer remained adamant that she had no idea and says that she tried watching Madeline like a hawk, but claims that she was ultimately oblivious to it all. She told investigators if she did know anything, especially regarding the location of Madeline, she would tell them, saying, quote, I don't care about him. I want him to go to jail. I want the worst thing possible to happen to him in jail. I know what happens to predators in jail. Like, I'm ready for that. In contrast, there was another instance where she asked police if she could initially make a decision about pressing charges against Stephan and then change her mind later if she wanted to. This kind of behavior seems pretty inconsistent with how a parent would typically react after learning that their partner had been essaying their child. I don't think they'd be like, can I press charges but then change my mind later? Or can I think about whether or not I want to press charges? I feel like most parents would be like, of course I want to press charges right away, like I want him behind bars. We discussed in the last update video how Jennifer revealed that Madeline would sleep in the same bed as Stephan because Jennifer often needed a good night's rest or because she had anxiety and needed uninterrupted sleep, which is exactly what happened the last night that her daughter was alive. Madeline did have her own room, which was technically like a makeshift bedroom in the living room, but she never really slept there.
The living room has a partition in it, a fake wall kind of thing. That's got her bedroom in it. That's got a bed, a dresser, and a desk on it. Does she sleep there? No. She'll hang out there. She'll use her computer and hang out there. That's her hangout spot. But she primarily sleeps with me every night in my bed. That's because I know the roommates wake up super early in the morning. They're going to be in the kitchen. They're going to wake her up if she's sleeping out in the living room. So I don't.
So your bedroom downstairs, her makeshift bedroom downstairs, guest bedroom upstairs?
Yes.
Got it.
Jennifer said that Madeline slept alone with Stephan that Sunday night because she had just started a new job and wanted to get a good night's rest. When pressed about more details, Jennifer said it was a selfish move because yes, she wanted a good night's rest, but she didn't feel comfortable with Madeline sleeping in the same bed as her boyfriend Stephan, saying it didn't look right to her. However, in other moments, she says it was something that happened often, like it was just a thing that they would just cuddle and sleep together. So that just brought up even more questions. I think that's just insane, like letting your daughter sleep with this man that isn't her father, her blood, and this grown man. It just is crazy that she would do this. It's also just really sad that Madeline's room was just a little area in the living room. Why didn't her daughter have a proper bedroom? During her interview, Jennifer was asked about a strange text message that she had sent to Stephan where she wrote, quote, "Maddie is no longer sleeping with me. I can't risk it." In response to this message, Jennifer said, "I have no idea," which again came off as quite odd because why don't you know what that means? Why did you send that message? How can you not remember what you meant by saying you can't risk it? What exactly is it? Now, an ex-partner from Stephan from a period when Jennifer and Stephan had broken up spoke about this sleeping arrangement as well. She said she had a relationship with Stephan from around December 2022 to May 2023. She told investigators that Stephan said he was separated from Jennifer, yet he was still sleeping at her residence. Then she said that Stephan also told her that he slept with Madeline in the same bed, saying that he needed to cuddle her in order for her to fall asleep. She also said that she recalled something very disturbing, where he told her he once woke up with an erection and had to turn around in his bed. She said this was all very disturbing and ended up distancing herself from him after she learned this, which of course kind of brings up the question as to why Jennifer was allowing this if she was broken up with Stephan. If they were no longer in a relationship, why was he still sleeping in her house in the same bed with her daughter? This ex-partner also recalled another just very strange incident. She said Stephan had a tough time getting an erection, but one time where he had no struggles at all was when he asked her to lie flat as if she was dead while he had intercourse with her. So very, very disturbing. She was just wondering, like, why does he want me to pretend I'm dead while he's, having sex with me? Now, when Stephan was asked about Madeline's sleeping arrangements, he told police that Madeline needed human contact when going to sleep, and that Madeline was the one who wanted them to sleep in the same bed since he had been gone for several months. Jennifer and Stephan were on and off, like I mentioned, like they would break up, get back together, break up, get back together, and he had moved out around November or December of 2023 to Northport, Florida, because Stephan's parents were getting old and needed more help. Even though he claims that Madeline was asking him to sleep in the same bed as her and was asking him to cuddle her, I think as the grown adult, he should have made the decision of, maybe this isn't appropriate. Let me speak to her mom, see what we can figure out. But like, to just get in bed with her and just cuddle her every single night just because she told you to, it's just, oh my gosh. Now, like I mentioned, Jennifer and Stephan were constantly breaking up. Jennifer said that one of the times that they had broken up was because Stephan was just like a very messy person and that they didn't really have like a sexual relationship because her medication affected her sex drive. But when they did do it, it was just very vanilla. Jennifer also said that Stephan wanted her to have anal sex with her, but that she didn't want to. So they were broken up, and when Stephan returned to the Soto home, he claimed that Madeline wanted to sleep together since he had been gone for a while during the breakup. So yeah, that's basically what he had to say about why he would sleep in the same bed as Madeline. Again, none of this makes sense. None of it is right. When questioned about what was found in his Google Drive, investigators asked if he would ever save photos of Madeline and him to that account, and he said yes. When asked about all the pictures he had saved, Stephan asked if he should be talking to a lawyer and actually requested an attorney. After this, Stephan was arrested on unrelated charges of sexual battery and possession of child abuse material on February 28th. Photos of his body, like his hands, nails, and private areas, were taken as part of the investigation as well for identification purposes, especially to identify a distinct mark on his, which appears in the abusive photos found on his phone. This arrest was just a huge shock to the community. Everyone was shaken once again shortly after when, unfortunately, Madeline's body was found. Madeline's body was found less than 100 feet from where Stephan was seen stopped on the side of the road with a flat tire on the very day Madeline disappeared, which I've mentioned in my past videos. Investigators determined Stephan never dropped Madeline off at school like he claimed, and in fact had video surveillance footage of him throwing away Madeline's belongings in a dumpster in their apartment complex, as well as footage of him driving his car with Madeline's lifeless body in the car. Madeline was slumped over in the passenger seat and her mouth was ajar. Additional video footage and tracking of Stephan's car from that morning showed that at 9:35 a.m., Stephan parked his car in a parking garage on South John Young Parkway. He backed the car into a space and opened the trunk. At 9:41 a.m., Stephan is seen placing Madeline, who is wearing a green sweatshirt, into the trunk of his car. After that, he left the parking garage. Then at 10:14 a.m., Stephan drove back into the apartment complex. This time, Madeline was no longer in the front seat of his car and there was no sign of her anywhere. With this, on April 24th, 2024, Stephan was indicted on capital first-degree murder. A few days after his arrest, an acquaintance of Stephan named Frank was interviewed. He said he had only known Stephan for about 3 years and that they met on an online game called Warhammer. Frank said that he thought it was odd seeing seeing Stephan and Jennifer refer to themselves as boyfriend and girlfriend in their public interviews because he was under the impression that they were not in a relationship anymore. Frank also noted how Stephan would often speak more about Madeline than he would about his girlfriend Jennifer. He also said Stephan had previously mentioned plans to go to Kissimmee, Florida the weekend of February 17, 2024, supposedly in connection with Madeline, but Frank said he never even went. That conversation came up while Stephan was talking about his breakup with Jennifer, and Frank noted that he seemed more affected by his bond with Madeline than with the end of his relationship with Jennifer. So like he was more upset about the fact that he wouldn't be seeing Madeline than Jennifer. Frank also added that he was not aware of the sleeping arrangements while Stephan was living there. He made note that Stephan spent a lot of money on video games, which he thought was quite odd considering Stephan literally didn't have a job. This being something various other people who knew Stephan also said. Frank also stated that he knew Stephan took Adderall and that he would sleep during the day and be up all night, but was unaware if Stephan took any sleeping medication. When asked if he knew anything about Stephan's sex life, Frank said no, but that when they would be out and an adult female would approach them, Stephan would literally show no interest whatsoever in women. So yeah, that's what an acquaintance of Stephan basically had to say about him. This just kind of helped police and the investigators get a little bit more information as to who Stephan was outside of the relationship with Jennifer. Investigators also spoke with Stephan's parents, Chris and Deborah Stearns, in the days following his arrest. On the day Madeline disappeared, Chris recalled a very strange interaction with Stephan. He said Stephan first called him at 3:17 p.m., claiming that he had a flat tire and had injured his finger while changing it. Then at 4:54 p.m., Stephan called again, this time saying there had been, quote, an occurrence and that he was heading to Madeline's grandmother's house. Chris was immediately struck by his odd phrasing. He never heard Stephan speak like that. During the second call, Stephan explained that he had dropped Madeline off near her school, but actually hadn't been in school that day. He also claimed the area where he left her was known for kidnappings and abductions, a statement Chris knew to be absolutely false since the neighborhood is an upper middle class area with no such reputation. Chris also said it felt like Stephan was blaming himself for Madeline's disappearance by his behavior and seemed to kind of be like rehearsing a story. Now, about Stephan claiming that he had performed 2 accidental phone resets, Chris flatly called that explanation, quote, bullshit. According to investigators, both Chris and Deborah described Stephan and Jennifer's relationship as unstable and emotionally unhealthy. They said the two would sleep excessively, and when either experienced a mental health episode, they would drag the other one down with them, creating a toxic and just codependent dynamic. After their recent breakup, Stephan moved into a separate room in the Soto household, with Chris covering his $600 monthly rent. Eventually, Chris grew frustrated with this arrangement. I mean, paying his son's rent to live with a woman he and his wife weren't very fond of, like, it's just like a weird situation. So he brought Stephan back to live with him and Deborah in Northport. Once back home, Stephan became increasingly isolated, spending most of his time alone in his room. There was a lot of tension in the household during this time, largely due to his sleep disorder. Stephan would stay awake all night and sleep throughout the day, often getting angry if there was too much noise during his daytime slumber. Despite the supposed breakup, Stephan and Jennifer's romantic status was kind of unclear. A week before the incident, Jennifer confided in Chris that she didn't want to be with Stephan, saying he wasn't good for her. Chris just assumed that their relationship was over, especially since Stephan appeared to be seeing someone else at the time. So yeah, that's just a bit about how Stephan was back at home and what his family noticed. I think it's crazy that he was a grown man and his dad was like paying his rent for him. Like, it's just absolutely insane what was going on here. Now, after moving back home, Stephan returned to Kissimmee 3 times, once for Thanksgiving, once for Christmas, and most recently for Madeline's birthday party. Now, just to clarify, unlike what was said in my prior video at the time, it's now known that Stephan did not actually attend the birthday party, but arrived afterwards. So I just wanted to do a little bit of clarification on that because in my first video, I misspoke and said that Stephan was at the party, but it has now been clarified and confirmed that he was not at the party. Now, Stephan's mom, Deborah, recalled that the day before Madeline's birthday party, Madeline had called Stephan to ask if he would be attending, and Chris noticed that Stephan seemed unusually anxious the day before he left for the birthday birthday party. He was specifically looking for anxiety medication in the house, although he wasn't able to find any. Both Chris and Deborah said they weren't sure what was causing this anxiety. Now, regarding Madeline, Deborah mentioned that over the past year, she had noticed signs of what appeared to be bipolar disorder in Madeline. And while she didn't witness any direct conflict between Madeline and Jennifer, she did overhear them arguing on the phone from time to time. Deborah also believed that Madeline was socially isolated and didn't have any friends, though that impression differs from what others have said about Madeline. Stephan's parents have come under scrutiny due to their support for him because of some language that they've used or just certain things that they have said in interviews that do make it seem like they support their son and are there to help him get through this difficult time and are here to help him get through the trial and through everything. But all in all, this is kind of what Stephan's parents had to say after their son was arrested. We'll talk more about them in a little bit, we'll touch base on their situation, but yeah, I have seen a lot of people criticize the parents and just kind of be like, listen, how are you still supporting your son after all of this horrific stuff has come out about him? Investigators conducted a few other interviews as well. First, Madeline's maternal grandmother, Jennifer's mom, Yolanda. She said that she didn't like Stephan because he didn't do anything work-wise and believes Jennifer was just with him just because she didn't want to be alone, so she was not fond of him whatsoever. In another interview, they spoke with Angelica, one of the roommates in Jennifer's house. She shared what she witnessed the night Madeline disappeared. She said that she arrived at the house at around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday night and that later at approximately 2:30 in the morning, she noticed a light on in the guest room and she heard distinct noises coming from inside. Sounds she described as someone placing items on a table. The noises were loud enough to be heard through 2 closed doors and across the hallway. I mean, it just struck her as unusual given the late hour. At that time, Stephan and Madeline were believed to be in that room. Angelica also noticed that when Jennifer takes her prescribed sleeping medication, she typically falls into a very deep sleep. That night, Jennifer's bedroom door was slightly ajar and Angelica could see the TV on, which led her to believe that Jennifer was already asleep. The next morning, February 26, Angelica said that she woke up at around 9:30 a.m. and went to the kitchen at around 10:30 a.m. to make breakfast. It was then that she saw Stephan, who she said was acting strangely, moving up and down the stairs repeatedly and going in and out of the apartment. What stood out most, though, was that he was doing laundry, something Angelica had never seen him do before. She also heard the sound of power tools and remembered seeing 3 tools on the table earlier, including a hammer. Stephan simply said that he was, quote, finishing up a project, but didn't offer any further explanation to that. Angelica then went on to explain how she left work at around 3:40 p.m. and at that time, Stephan was still at the apartment. It wasn't until she returned home at around 11 p.m. that Jennifer informed her that Madeline was missing. Angelica recalled that Jennifer was visibly upset and crying, while Stephan remained unusually calm, which in her opinion didn't align with someone whose child had just disappeared. In the same interview, investigators showed Angelica a photo recovered from Stephan's phone, which was a picture of a nude woman in a bathroom. Disturbingly, Angelica identified the woman in the photo as herself and confirmed that she had never given Stephan permission to take it. She also told investigators that she had previously seen Madeline and Stephan go into the room alone on multiple occasions while Jennifer was still inside the house. When she brought her concerns to Jennifer, she just kind of brushed them off, telling Angelica that she trusted Stephan and didn't believe that he would ever harm her daughter, which I think is just so insane. Angelica also shared insight into Jennifer and Stephan's relationship, noting that their intimacy was minimal and that the lack of sexual relationship was one of the reasons Jennifer no longer wanted to be with him. According to her, Stephan was upset about being asked to move out of the apartment, but Madeline didn't seem particularly affected by the situation. Regarding Madeline's typical school routine, Angelica said that she would usually get dressed in the living room, breakfast, and sometimes take a short nap before leaving with Jennifer. She noted that she never saw Stephan take Madeline to school. All of this information is just so disturbing, like for Angelica to learn that Stephan had those pictures on his phone that she didn't consent to. I just feel so bad for her as well. And she was living in the same house with this chaos and with this evil man doing these horrendous things to this, young child. Now, court documents revealed Madeline's phone movements the night before and the morning she went missing thanks to the data on the health app on her iPhone, which does coincide with what Angelica says. The step count data differs from Madeline's usual activity, which leads investigators to believe that someone else, likely Stephan, Stephan was the one in control of her cell phone. So, what did these steps reveal? Well, the night before at 11:19 p.m., the phone records 31 steps taken and 1 floor climbed, which coincides with when Jennifer sent Madeline and Stephan to bed. At 11:38 p.m., Madeline's phone is then plugged in to charge. Then at 7:04 a.m., her phone is unplugged from the charger. At 7:05, the phone then records 113 steps. At 7:15, the phone records 50 steps, and at 7:16, the phone is powered off, which when compared to past data is something that Madeline did not normally do. She normally did not turn her phone off in the morning. At 10:55 a.m., the phone is then powered back on and records 8 steps, this being around the time that Angelica said she saw Stephan doing laundry. Earlier in the morning, Jennifer said she noticed Madeline's phone was still at home, so when it was time to go pick her up from school, she grabbed it and took it with her, which would coincide with the phone's recording of 54 steps at 2:37 p.m. Investigators also spoke with another roommate in the Soto home, a woman named Natalie, who knew Jennifer through her sister. Natalie said she moved in after Stephan was already living there, though she rarely interacted with him and just mostly kept to herself in the room with her son. She recalled Jennifer recently confiding in her about financial struggles, specifically mentioning that Stephan wasn't contributing financially to the household or to anything. He literally didn't have a job. Natalie also remembered only one instance where she saw Madeline alone with Stephan playing video games in his room. Concerned, she texted Jennifer to ask if, she was okay with that with Stephan and her daughter being alone. Jennifer simply responded with a thank you, which Natalie found odd. When asked about Jennifer's medication use, Natalie said she believed Jennifer took something to help her with both sleep and ADHD. She recalled a specific incident where she had a hard time waking Jennifer in the middle of the night when someone was trying to break into her car, something she attributed to the effects of Jennifer's medication and just shows how deep of a sleep she would get into. Natalie also mentioned that Madeline never left for school earlier than necessary. Since she and her son had nearly an identical morning routine, she knew for sure. Investigators also spoke with one of Madeline's best friends at Hunter Creek Middle School, who we will call Sarah for the sake of the video. She said that she attended the birthday party on Sunday and noticed Madeline was acting upset because some of her friends had canceled on her. However, Sarah assumed it was also because Madeline's mom, Jennifer, wasn't there. Sarah mentioned that she and Madeline typically exchanged daily text messages in the morning, but on Monday, she didn't receive a message from Madeline, which was just very unusual. Sarah also noted that she and Madeline had similar menstrual cycles. Madeline had started her period in January, but Sarah was unsure if she had gotten it again in February. Later, Sarah clarified that Madeline did start her cycle, but that it was 2 weeks late. However, there has been no concrete confirmation of that, but that's just something to note and something that I read in the court documents. Court documents later revealed additional information potentially linked to Madeline's menstrual cycle. During a search of Madeline's phone, investigators found a text message sent to Stephan at 12:47 a.m. on December 16, 2023, containing a photograph of a coin. The coin, which is designed for new parents, had one side saying Father's Turn and the other saying Mother's Turn, and it appeared to be from Amazon. In the message, Madeline wrote, quote, "We need to get this, and get this for us, please." The timing of this message, far from any holiday like Father's Day or Mother's Day, raised suspicions that Madeline and Stephan may have discussed a possible pregnancy. When investigators questioned Jennifer about the possibility of Madeline being pregnant, she said that she kept track of Madeline's menstrual cycle and any feminine hygiene products in February. Jennifer also mentioned that she had 2 pregnancy tests in the house, but hadn't checked to see if they were still there or if Madeline had taken them. All of that is just so disturbing to hear about, how maybe Madeline could have been discussing this with Stephan. All of this stuff just makes you feel so sick and just makes you feel so disturbed, and it breaks my heart what Madeline was going through. In a later interview, Jennifer recounted the night of February 25th, 2024, the day before Madeline went missing. She said she had been working at her new job and arrived home at around 10:30 p.m. When she walked in, she saw Stephan and Madeline downstairs, though she couldn't recall what either of them was wearing. She assumed Madeline was likely already in her pajamas. Jennifer said she spent about 30 minutes with them in her bedroom before sending them upstairs to sleep in the other bedroom. Before bed, she reminded Madeline to take her usual nighttime medications. She also noted that if Madeline took the hydroxine later than usual, she would become sluggish. On top of all of that, Madeline would also take Adderall. She then told her daughter to lay out her clothes for school the next morning since Stephan would be the one taking her, and just wanted her to be ready on time. According According to Jennifer, the last message that she received that night was a text from Stephan saying that Madeline had, quote, built her nest and was ready for bed. Now, I'll include a photo of that text message exchange on the screen if you guys want to pause and read it. Jennifer said the next time that she saw Stephan was in the morning when she was woken up by him trying to put the leash on her dog that was in her room and then went back to bed. Stephan initially told police he actually spoke to Jennifer various times that morning as he was in and out of her bedroom, but Jennifer says that she only interacted with him once briefly. When asked why Stephan didn't use Jennifer's car to take Madeline to school, given that Madeline was allegedly embarrassed by his car, Jennifer said that he wasn't on her insurance. Yet she acknowledged that he did drive her car later when he was out, quote, looking for Madeline after her disappearance. Jennifer then says she woke up at 9 a.m. to her alarm and had no messages from Madeline. But Stephan initially said that Jennifer was barely waking up when he got home at around 10 a.m. Jennifer confirmed she had a doctor's appointment that day where her blood was drawn. She canceled a second appointment due to its high cost and returned home afterwards. When she got back from her appointment, Stephan was home. He was wearing a red graphic t-shirt, seemed to be acting normally, and told her he had been driving around after realizing that the vape store had been closed. He had also mentioned that he had a few more errands to run, but would be back by 2:30 p.m. to pick up Madeline from school. Around this time, he told her that he had accidentally factory reset his phone. As the day went on and it got closer to pick up Madeline from school, Jennifer grew concerned because Stephan wasn't responding to her text messages, so she decided to just go pick up her daughter herself. On the way, Stephan finally called her back and said that he had accidentally left his phone at home, which is why he wasn't responding to her calls or text messages. Like I mentioned earlier, Jennifer had mentioned that she noticed Madeline had left her phone on her dresser, so she took it with her when heading to go pick her up. She explained that Madeline, who has ADHD, is often forgetful, so this wasn't something that stood out to her. Now, regarding her relationship with Stephan, Jennifer told investigators that they had broken up. She believed Madeline had some idea of this, but never said anything directly. Despite this breakup, like I mentioned, Jennifer let Stephan stay with them to support his mental health and help him get back on his feet. She wasn't sure if this arrangement would be temporary or permanent. Investigators also asked about a message that Jennifer had sent to Madeline's biological father, in which she expressed concern about Madeline possibly being filmed under a bathroom door during a visit. Jennifer said this concern stemmed from a story she had heard about airplane bathrooms and claimed that she had no knowledge of Stephan abusing Madeline before being informed by the authorities. However, investigators questioned whether that message might have been related to Stephan taking inappropriate photos of Angelica because, like we mentioned earlier, she discovered that, he had been sneaking photos of her in the bathroom. So now that we've gone over a little bit of more, witness testimony and just kind of some testimony from people involved in their lives, we kind of get a better picture of how this dynamic worked, how so many people did see Madeline and Stephan sleep alone and how they did go to Jennifer and told her, are you okay with this? Do you know what's going on? And how Jennifer was aware of this and would just say, yeah, thank you, and wouldn't do anything about it and just didn't seem bothered at the fact that her boyfriend was just spending all this alone time with her young daughter. Now, with Stephan now in jail, the investigation continued to uncover new information. Using data from a Fitbit that he was wearing, investigators discovered that 2 days after Madeline was reported missing and before his arrest, Stephan took an early morning trip that raised serious questions. At 4:42 a.m., Stephan left the hotel where he was staying with Jennifer and his father, Chris, while their home was being searched by authorities. He took Jennifer's car and drove alone to Northport, Florida, which was about a 2-hour drive to where his parents live and where his father has a storage unit. At the time, his mother was home alone. Stephan didn't tell anyone he was going there and returned to the hotel just before 11 a.m., making it a nearly 6-hour trip. At this point, Madeline is still being searched for, so why would Stephan need to leave and go 2 hours away to where his parents live? Where was he going? What did he need to do in that time frame for so long?
The following morning, I wake up, I think around 9 o'clock in the morning, and Stephan's not there. And I remember thinking, he left again without his phone and didn't tell anyone where he was going. That's suspicious as fuck again. But he rolled in around 11:15, rolled in with a cup of Wawa, and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just driving around. I grabbed some Wawa on 182 and got lost. I didn't know how to get back to the hotel, but I'm here now." And I'm just like, detectives are about to show up. What the fuck would have happened if they showed up and you weren't here? Like, you would have been a fugitive. Like, what are you doing? And he was just apologetic about not telling anyone where he went.
Chris said that maybe he went back to their house because he knew that, he wasn't there, to maybe look for something to steal and to sell for money. However, police wonder if maybe this trip was something more. Did he go to get rid of evidence? Did he go hide something? We're not sure. Investigators believe that the purpose of this trip may have been to either use his parents' home Wi-Fi to log on to his Google Drive account and delete any incriminating images, which as we know was ultimately successful, or to access his father's storage unit to destroy a hard drive containing evidence. During a recorded jail call, Chris questioned Stephan about this early morning trip to Northport. Chris asked him, quote, "Is there some explanation why you left and where you went?" Stephan responded vaguely, saying he was, quote, "grabbing a few things and needed to get his ducks in a row and kind of prepare for whatever was coming, but ultimately claimed he couldn't find what he was looking for and just ended up driving around aimlessly."
Is there some explanation of I came up Wednesday morning, actually at the hotel, early in the morning, and is there some explanation why you left and went where you went?
I was driving around.
Okay, understood you were driving around, but they know where you were driving around.
Yeah.
And we know.
Okay. I had wanted to grab a few things and get my ducks in a row, kind of prepare myself for whatever was coming, but I couldn't find what I was looking for.
Chris later told investigators he had no idea why Stephan would have gone to the storage unit, especially since Stephan didn't even have a key or have any known way to access it. However, while cleaning out the unit later, Chris actually discovered several of Stephan's belongings, including one of his watches, which Stephan had mentioned during a jail call was in his bedroom. More notably, Chris found a hard drive that appeared to have been removed from a desktop computer, along with 2 USB drives, all of which belonged to Stephan. This discovery led Chris to believe that Stephan had, in fact, attempted to access a storage unit during this visit to hide or dispose of this digital evidence. Chris also remembered that just days earlier, on February 24th, the day before Stephan left, he saw him using the desktop computer in their home. Now, investigators ended up finding over 35,000 images of CSAM on one of the USB drives. However, none of those images involved Madeline. Investigators also coordinated with the storage facility and confirmed that Chris's access code was manually entered on the day Stephan did go visit Northport. Records show that the code was used to enter the storage unit at 9:08 a.m. and again to exit at 9:16 a.m., the same morning that Stephan made the trip. During a recorded jail call, Chris asked Stephan, "Were you expecting these charges?" To which Stephan replied, "No." Chris followed up asking, "So you got blindsided by that?" And Stephan responded with, "Yeah, obviously it's not true. I never would have wanted her gone for any reason, so premeditated first degree is kind of a dick punch." Stephan then went on to say, "I'm not really sure that any one person is specifically responsible. It's probably a combination of factors that led to it. I've never felt anything like that before. It was horrible." Chris responded by saying he hoped that the truth would come out, to which Stephan simply replied with, "Well, yeah." Chris then asked his son if he had been cooperating with police regarding Jennifer's potential involvement in the case, and Stephan said that there hadn't been an opportunity to cooperate and that investigators hadn't asked him anything specific so far. Later in the conversation, Chris urged Stephan to face the situation and just have an open conversation with either the authorities or his legal team about what actually happened, to which Stephan just responded with, "Yeah," and then shifted the conversation to ask if his parents could look for his social security card and birth certificate, explaining that he might need them in the future in the event that he gets out and they are no longer around. Chris responded somberly saying, "Well, the penalty for the crimes you've been charged with carries a minimum 40-year sentence, so obviously we're gonna be gone. I mean, we're sad about that, obviously, because there won't be anybody here for you when you come out. Yeah, I'll be lucky if I have another 40 years left in me either."
How long I'm going to be here, if or when I'll ever be released, or if you guys are going to be around at that point. But, birth certificate, social security card might be things I'll need in that case.
Well, the penalty for the crimes you have been charged with carry a minimum 40-year sentence. So obviously we're going to be gone. Rick will be gone. We'll all be gone. Um, I mean, we're sad about that, obviously, because there won't be anybody here for you when you come out.
Yeah, and I'll be lucky if I have another 40 years left in me either, so.
Chris then tells him he wishes there was a way they could all talk and see kind of like how this all happened because they're just very confused. And Stephan just kind of abruptly says, well, I didn't start it, which is a very odd thing to say. I mean, what does he mean by that? Start what? Start the abuse? Chris responds by saying, you didn't start it, but you participated in it, which is just as bad as not starting it. Then Stephan says that he can't get into details. He ends the call asking for more money to be put into his commissary, but his dad says that they are pretty much broke, so he'll see what he can do. So yeah, that's basically what happened during that call. I mean, his parents were trying to confront him about what he did and trying to make him take responsibility for it, but it just seems like Stephan doesn't want to. In March of this year, additional jail phone call recordings between Stephan and his parents were released to the public. There were hours of recordings, so I won't be going over everything, but I'll just go over the major talking points. Throughout the conversation, Stephan continues to deny any responsibility for Madeline's death. In one call, he tells his father that he was the one who had discovered Madeline after she had already died. He describes her as being unusually pale with blue lips and ice cold to the touch. Stephan insists that he wasn't in the room the entire time, but points out that no one else was in the house except for the people who lived there. Because of this, he claims it's difficult to place a blame on one person for Madeline's death. However, he also believes that authorities are just trying to pin everything on him. His father responds by saying that if Stephan isn't responsible, the situation just needs to be cleared up. Stephan replies that he believes it was an accident and that perhaps everyone involved is to blame.
And I know you can't talk about this, but it's like, it almost sounds like you didn't know something had happened to her.
Well, I discovered her, in the state that she was in after everything was said and done. So, I mean, I obviously I can't get into detail, but no, I was not aware that she had, passed on. As you know, I'm up and down throughout the night, and, I was not in the room the whole time.
Was there anybody else at the townhome that was not a regular person?
No, which is why, I keep saying that I'm not sure that there's any one person, obviously, to blame. But they're certainly trying to blame me.
In another call, Stephan tells his mother that anything he did was not done with a rational mind and admits that he, quote, snapped. He expresses regret, saying he wishes he had done the right thing from the start, which he believes would have been to run downstairs and call 911. He also claims that Jennifer was aware of Madeline's, quote, certain feelings towards him, suggesting that Jennifer wasn't shocked by the situation. His mother then questions why Jennifer would have allowed Madeline to sleep with him in the same bed, to which Stephan responds by claiming that Jennifer used to joke about him leaving her for Madeline once she got older, saying, quote, you better not leave me for my daughter when she's older, and that she would just make little comments like that. He says, quote, she used to joke about it, call it an electric complex, which is defined as, quote, a girl's psychological competition with her mother for her father's affection. Also, I'm curious as to what he's referring to when he says, I should have run downstairs and called the police. Is he saying that something happened in the bedroom? That's where Madeline actually passed away? That, the people in the house were involved in her death and she died in the room, and that instead of going to get rid of the body and doing what he did, he should have just run downstairs and called 911? Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Matt Murphy chimed in on this statement Stephan made, saying it's offensively stupid.
You look at that photo on the screen, and I don't want to be glib because the case is so horrific, but I mean, like, how many 13-year-olds are attracted to the picture that we see on that screen? It's offensively stupid, and I think the jury's going to see it that way.
Now, a quick update regarding Sheriff Marcos Lopez, whom we discussed in the last video. If you recall, he was being investigated for posting photos of Madeline's body to his Instagram account. While he initially faced a fine of up to $500, he reached a plea deal and agreed to pay $250, avoiding a hearing on the matter. However, Orange Osceola State Attorney Andrew Bain took further action and placed Lopez on the Brady's list, also known as the Brady identification system. Now, this list includes law enforcement officers or witnesses with a history of dishonesty or inconsistent statements, which can affect their credibility in court. This decision followed several inconsistencies in Marcos's statements. Initially, he apologized and called his actions a mistake. Later, in a radio interview, he claimed the photo wasn't of the victim's body, but rather a, quote, area of interest. During a sworn interview with investigators, however, Marcos admitted that he had the photo sent to his phone in order to compare the clothing in the picture with what Madeline had last been wearing. Since Marcos is listed as a witness in Stephan Stern's case, Andrew's decision to place him on the Brady's list is very significant. His past inconsistencies could impact the trial, and the defense counsel just must be aware of this. In a letter to Marcos, Andrew stated, quote, "This leaves us no choice but to include you in our Brady identification system, so defense counsel may evaluate your statements for impeachment, and if appropriate, a court may make a determination as to your admissibility for that purpose." Now, the Osceola County Sheriff's Office disagrees with this decision and has no further comment at this time. So yeah, we will see what happens with that. Now, another troubling development related to Madeline is that 25-year-old Italo Brett Bonini, one of Madeline's chorus teachers, was actually arrested in February of this year on charges of enticing a minor for sex. He used the messaging platform Discord to communicate with an 8-year-old boy and his younger brother, offering them a Robux, which is a form of currency on Roblox, in exchange for acts via video chat. Italo worked with children every day at Madeline's middle school, and he was even questioned by police 3 days after Madeline went missing. During that interview, he told investigators that Madeline had never shared anything about her home life and that she appeared to be a normal, happy student who made friends easily. Now, at this time, there isn't any information regarding a possible connection to Madeline's case, but if there are updates, I will definitely let you know. I just thought that was horrifying to hear that a teacher at Madeline's school had been speaking to an 8-year-old boy online and asking him for horrific things. It's truly frightening and scary to know that these people are working with children and working around children, and it's just scary. Like, I don't know, it just makes you question everybody. Now, in October of 2024, a trial date for the child battery charges was scheduled for February 24th, 2025 for Stephan, but has actually been postponed for early May of 2025, and a tentative trial date for the homicide charge was set for September 22nd of this year. Stephan has pled not guilty, and his defense has filed a lot of motions, some of which include trying to throw out the death penalty, as well as evidence found on his phone claiming it was seized unlawfully. They have also asked to exclude impact statements from the prosecution, for witnesses to use the word homicide instead of murder during their testimonies. They want Stephan to be free of handcuffs during the trial, as well as to be able to ask prospective jurors their religious beliefs, as they argue relates to the death penalty, and have said that they may ask for a change of venue as well. So yeah, they're asking for a lot of stuff. We will see what happens in those upcoming dates. I want to end this video with something Stephan said that just really made my blood boil. I mean, everything has made my blood boil. Like, everything that comes out of this man's mouth is just absolutely insane and just disgusting and disturbing. During a jail call, he told his parents that he realizes he is at risk of receiving the death penalty, but says, quote, "I guess that's not so bad, right? You go to sleep and then you go to heaven." That just made me so angry. Like, hearing that, thinking that he's gonna go to heaven, like, no, that is just so wrong and just so ridiculous for him to think. I do just hope that justice is served for Madeline's murder, and that all the persons responsible for harming her are held responsible. She should still be here with us today. She had her whole life ahead of her, and she was just failed. I will definitely be sure to provide more updates for you as they become available. If you guys want me to cover the trial and just cover all of that, just let me know in the comments down below. I want to end this video by reminding you of the importance of being educated and aware of the signs of abuse, because even one change or behavior could make a difference and save a child. Children are some of our most vulnerable and deserve to be protected. As I mentioned, I will be leaving resources in the description box down below if you or anyone you know is a victim of sexual abuse. You can text STRENGTH to the crisis text line at 741-741 to be connected to a certified crisis counselor. If you suspect child abuse, call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4-CHILD or 1-800-422-4453, or go to childhelp.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential. The hotline is available 24/7 in more than 170 languages. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to these updates in the process of getting Madeline Soto justice for not only the horrific crimes against her while she was alive, but her murder too. Like I said, she deserves to still be here with us today. She deserves justice, and she just deserved so much more. Hearing all of these new details come out about how Jennifer knew that they would sleep together, how the roommates would see Madeline and Stephan alone, and they would tell Jennifer like, hey, are you okay with this? And Jennifer would still be okay with it. Just hearing everything that Madeline had to go through before her murder, it makes you wish that you could go back in time and save her and just protect her and just put her in a safe and just, you know, beautiful, loving home. It's unfair to think about everything that she went through. It's horrifying to think about all these pictures and images and just how he's just not taking responsibility for what he did, how he tries to make it seem like, well, Madeline is the one that wanted me to sleep with her. Like, she was a kid. Like, you're the grown adult who should have known better. I think these new updates were just very important to talk about, and they just kind of cleared things up a little bit more, just offered some more insight into what was truly going on in that household. Like I said, I will keep you guys posted. I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. What do you guys think about the updates? What do you guys think about Stephan's parents? What do you guys think about Jennifer? Do you think she knew more? Do you think she didn't know more? I guess maybe more will be revealed during the trial. So yeah, we will see what happens with that. I appreciate you guys so much for being here and for listening to these updates. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, familia.